Just when you thought the Helios 44-2 couldn't get any cooler, something comes along that completely blows away expectations.
Bruce Wayne.
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Back glass. Oh yeah. A few weeks ago, scrolling the Gram feed as I don't typically do, this pops up. Greig Fraser, for those of you who don't know, is an Academy Award-winning director of photography whose images can be found in such films as Dune, Rogue One, Vice, and most recently, The Batman. Greig is legit. And according to this post, am I to assume that the rehoused iron glass lenses were used in the production of The Batman? More specifically, the Batman and Penguin car chase sequence. Now, like a shark who's caught the scent of blood in the ocean, I reached out to Alan from Vintage Lens from Video to confirm this assumption based on Greig's post. And yes, he confirmed what he couldn't for the last 2 years. A few scenes from The Batman were in fact filmed with some very humble lenses most of us have access to. All I can say to that is that's one hell of a secret to keep for 24 months. Good job, Alan. Now, the biggest question on your mind might be why a production like this is using rehoused vintage optics when they can choose from just about anything that exists under the sun. Now, big questions often do have simple answers, and in this case, it boils down to the look the filmmakers were going for. Style.
The movie had to have a very visceral side to it, and that it happens in the visual. It's a critical part of it. We're trying to take you into an experience.
So let's be clear, the majority of the film was not shot using the iron glass rehoused lenses. The production did use a few different lens options, but the film was mostly shot with modern anamorphic lenses that were detuned. Now, I'm not entirely sure what's involved with the detuning process, but it does have a very distinct impact on the images. Now, some of the optical characteristics of these detuned lenses are reduced full-frame resolving power, which basically means while retaining fairly strong center sharpness, the sharpness is gradually reduced as we move towards the edges of the frame. It's also had an impact on the contrast levels of the lenses. Less contrast, to be exact. Also, interesting bokeh performance and flares that are much more intense compared to what is typically accepted at this level. Now, these lens flaws by traditional technical standards are all exploited in The Batman to curate a very unique visual style and one that's very much in line with the story the filmmakers are telling. Now, for example, because the image sharpness falls off towards the edges, the film tends to frame the key action in the center of the frame. Now, another way one can exploit the edge softness is by using lighting or props to really enhance the image fall off. Nothing of great significance, just visual accents that help lean into the image characteristics a bit. Here's where it gets interesting. When you consider these lens flaws, the lack of corner-to-corner sharpness, low contrast, interesting bokeh and flaring, it starts to sound a little bit like vintage lens characteristics. And this is possibly where the connection gets made as to why rehoused vintage optics were used in the film in the first place.
The Batmobile chase, we're putting cameras and we're putting it on, we're locking them onto, hard mounts so that you're watching a lot of hard mounts and that kind of stuff.
Now, I'm told the filmmakers needed a small light lens option for the car chase scene and crash cams whose natural lens characteristics match the detuned anamorphic lenses. Enter the Helios 44-2 and Jupiter 9 spherical lenses. Straight out the gate, they share very similar image characteristics to the detuned anamorphic lenses, so in a way, an imperfect match. Now, being photo lenses, the production needed additional functionality, so the iron glass rehoused Helios and Jupiter were ordered with PL mounts and modified oval bokeh discs, just like I have right here. Now, because these were mounted to the vehicles, I suspect weight was also a factor when considering what lenses to use. But these rehoused lenses weigh a lot less than modern anamorphic ones. Now, I'm not exactly sure what shots in the sequence were used with what lenses, but if I were to take a guess, I would assume this could possibly be the Helios 44-2, and this might be the Jupiter 9. But This is not based on any fact, I'm simply guessing based on the field of view both lenses render on a full-frame sensor. Obviously a film like this, or any film, really, lens selection is just one of many creative choices that contribute to what you see on screen. What I particularly love about the production of the Batman is the ability of the filmmakers to conceive an unconventional look motivated by the perspective and character, and fully commit to that from start to finish. They could have made the choice to shoot everything as clean as possible and crafted their desired look in post-production, but digital effects never quite resonate the same way as optical ones. Plus, when you're shooting practically and can see what the frame is going to look like in a monitor, you can make adjustments on the fly to improve the image, something that you can't really do in post-production because you never really see it until the effects are all rendered out. Any changes you make from there to refine it will take up a lot of time and cost a lot of money. So yes, while I do think it's cool to own the same lenses that were used in part in this film, what I love most about all of this is it's really just a celebration of vintage lenses in general. Now, I use them in my own professional work and have tried very hard over the years to demonstrate their value on this platform, but nothing I do will come even remotely close to demonstrating the true potential of these lenses. This is what made me so excited to learn that these lenses were used in the Batman, and ultimately why I'm now dubbing them Batglass. Now, if you strip away all of this rehousing, the optics inside both these lenses are identical to the very affordable photo version. So if you own a Helios 44-2 or Jupiter 9, take some satisfaction in knowing that the lenses you own were used in part in a big budget feature film. And I just lost my key light. What the shit? How is this dead? That's annoying. Now, I've seen a number of times people saying these lenses cannot be used like this or like that based on what they've seen in typical modern lens reviews. Now, I think statements like that are a tricky line to walk, and you can use just about anything you want if you can justify it or motivate it. Sometimes it's just to yourself, other times it's to a bunch of big film executives responsible for a $200 million production. Now, the creative work should be what dictates the gear and techniques, not the technical limitations of that gear. Now, I've been saying this since I got into this: maximize strengths and minimize weaknesses. Now, I think the Batman is a very mainstream example of this concept in practice. So if you're interested in the deep dive into the behind the scenes process, I highly recommend checking out the video linked below where director Matt Reeves, colorist Dave Cole, and DP Greig Fraser discuss how and why they crafted the visual look of the film.
It is a very expensive, experimentation film. I mean, like, we did a lot.
Now, the look might not be your taste or style, but I think if you love films, it's really important to take a closer look at why decisions are made to get the end result. Now, huge shout out to all those who are working at Iron Glass Adapters and Alan from Vintage Lens from Video for not only producing some outstanding quality products, but also top tier customer service. It's really nice to see all the hard work isn't going unnoticed by the best in the business, and just a massive thank you for helping give us the tools that creatively inspire us. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to watch me shoot the shit about all this stuff I continue to love. Any questions, leave them down below. Happy to have a discussion. See you next time. Center sharpness, this is the problem with shooting outside, is you have the elements. My light just fell. I was too lazy to light stand for this tube light. Look at it. It makes a big difference, right? There, not there. There, not there. So hold on, I'll be right back. Never underestimate lighting. It's very, very, very important, even when you're outside. That's better. All right, where was I?